Hello, 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 and welcome. This is another review from your boy alertwolf, and this one is of Sword Art Online, episode 22. This one's called The Grand Quest, and let's just get right into this one. It starts off with Kirito at the invisible wall. Him and Yui are banging against it, uh, sorry, trying to get to Asuna and calling out Asuna's name. Or calling out to Asuna. Yui's calling out to Asuna. Yui uses some sort of special mode to try to get in contact with her, but she doesn't actually get her. And what happens is, um, she doesn't get her, but Asuna hears her. She's like, I have to do something. I have to throw something down, something to let them know I know that they're here for me. And because she heard Yui's voice, the only way Yui's there is if Kirito's there. So she throws down the key card and he gets the key card. Awesome. Yui identifies it as a key card. It's not a regular item, obviously. This is an administrative tool, but it only works on the correct console. And we know from the previous episode what that console is. So when Kirito realizes he can't break through the barrier, he's like, I have to go. I have to go. Leafa's like, listen, you can't go. It's foolhardy. It's foolish. An army couldn't get through the defenses. And Kirito's like, I have to do it. He goes, you and I are parting ways here. And he shakes her hand and he's off. He lands on the ground. People in the game shit themselves. They think it's an event. They're like, it's an event going on when he landed. He landed with the fury. You know what I'm saying? So, then he goes off to the gate, agrees to challenge the Guardians, and he starts ripping them to shreds. He rips the first one to shreds, the second one to shreds, the third one. Then archers come out. He starts messing up the archers. Then they start. It's just a savage, brutal battle, you know. And the whole time I'm like, yes, yes, you know. This whole episode, man, this whole episode had me on the edge. I don't want to get too much into the review part of things because I'm in the excellent, the episode breakdown. But wow, this episode had me going the entire time. Um, every which way, every one of my emotional buttons were being pressed. Where I was like, yeah, and the fight was awesome, and he was hacking and slashing and cutting and crawling and climbing his way to the top, but they just outnumbered him and they started swarming him with arrows, and that wasn't deterring him. He had like 5 swords in his belly, like through his back, out of his belly, like looked like a porcupine, this guy. And he's about to die, and he's like, no, and he dies. And then he's floating there for a little while, because you could be, now they established previously that while you're a flame, you could be revived. So there's a time limit before you get to restart. Like in most MMOs, you have the restart timer, and it's usually a given time limit. And in that time limit, you can be revived. So Leafa rushes in as he's contemplating the games. You see flashbacks of it's like Kirito's greatest hits, his greatest fights. And and Leafa comes out of nowhere, and she's gonna try to save Kirito. Kirito, now Leafa is no match for any of these guardians. She's just not. So she flies around. She's taking some hits. She gets his flame, holds on to his flame, and keeps going. And she has to make it out of the door. And she takes a lot of damage, but she manages to make it out and revives him. And the door closes, and he's like, I have to go back in. She's like, what are you doing? Stay here with me, And she kind of hugs him from behind, and she's like, I just want you to turn back to the regular you. He's like, you don't understand. I gotta go. I gotta do it. Things can't end and things won't begin until I have to do this. I have to move forward. All right. and start from here. So so basically, she wants him. You know, she doesn't want him to go. She wants him to stay. She wants him to stick around. And what happens is he's like, no, and he's explaining what's going on, and finally he says it. I have to see her. I have to save her. I have to see. It's the only way I get to see Asuna, and I've been waiting this entire half of the season for him to call Asuna by name, because as soon as he did that, bam, she's like, she pulls back, she starts to cry a little. She's like, Nissan, you know, his brother, and and you know, there you go. She figures it out, and he calls her by her name, Suguru, and she logs out, and then he logs out, and she's crying in a room. She tells him not to come in, and then she spills the beans on everything. The fact that she was in love with him, the fact that they're not really brother and sister, because she understood he knew that, and maybe that's why he was avoiding her. She just wished she was back to being a jerk. The fact that she was using Kirito to help her get over him, because she realized he was in love with Asuna, and her, it made her sad that Asuna wasn't, you know, obviously in a coma, and now to know that she was betraying her love for him, you know, because in the end that's who she loves, and that's who she loves. Personally, I dig her. I think she looks better out of the game, but you know, whatever. Um. So, and that's, and she, you know, he tries to apologize. She's mad at him, and that's pretty much how the episode ends. With them like separated. So, and then the next episode is going to be called Bonds. So, what can I say about this episode? I mean, the summary, the episode was pretty much straightforward, a 1 to 2 act play, you know, or two act play basically. I, I absolutely loved this episode. This episode is a 5 out of 5 in my rating system. It was excellent. It was just great. It hit every one of my emotional buttons, like bang, bang, bang. When it came to this episode, you know, I identified with Kirito. You know what I mean? What if my chick had been taken? That's the type of level they got you on, and you have to kick some ass to save your chick. This is what this was on, and then you feel for Leafa or Suguru, because she's there to help, you know, both these guys who turn out to be her brother, and what's going on there. And then, you know, even at the end of the episode, there's a good amount of, there was a little bit of despair, you know, that Kirito couldn't save, you know, he couldn't make it up to the top in one shot. And then you felt the despair of, or the sadness of Leafa coming to a realization that that it doesn't matter what world she's in, she's still in love with her brother, you know? And it was just, this was like it was like a little emotional roller coaster, you know? You felt the anger, the angst, you know, you wanted, yeah, get him. That you felt that throughout most of this episode. You were like, do it. You're like, oh, he needs a second sword. If only he had 2 swords, you know, dual wield or something. Like, you felt that. And then you also felt sad for Leafa at the end of the episode when she figures out what's going on. But we know what's going to happen in the next episode. She's going to have to swallow her pride, because Kirito is going to have to tell her exactly what's at stake here. I mean, he doesn't know, obviously, that they're experimenting on people, but he does. He's going to know, you know, he's going to know he has to let her know what's at stake. And what's at stake is Asuna. And he has to save her. I mean, what would be cool to me, I mean, in a pure cool as shit type of, I mean, they don't have the time, and obviously it's not going to happen. It would be cool if you got the all-stars from the previous game to help Kirito when he needed it. If that word went out, that Asuna's being held, Kirito can't breach it alone. Get your asses in the game. And, you know, you see his boys from Sword Art Online come out of nowhere and kick some ass. That would be amazing. But I don't think that's going to happen. But I still think something's gonna go down, and I can't wait for the next episode. Obviously, she's gonna have to get behind her brother. Um, and I cannot stress to you how great this fight was. You know, coming off um, episode's 20's fight, which I think was the best fight in the series thus far. This was right up there, and the fact that he, after all the ass and the savage way he was fighting, he still lost the fight, and he couldn't save her, and all he was thinking about was her. Man, that's heartbreaking too. So kudos to them for this episode. It was great. You know, I know this episode has a weird mix of drama and action and you know, not sci-fi, but you know, sci-fi, yes, because you're in a computer game, and a little mystical magical stuff because that's the type of game you're in. But you know, and some people it's a little, the pacing is weird in it, but in this season they don't have to span so much time, so the pacing I think is right. Or this half of the season, it's just so good. You know, people were worried about it. Oh, they're fairies. Oh, let's not watch it because they're fairies instead of swords. But it is so badass, and it's very, this one. The first half, the first season was very broad. Second season, or the second half of the season, is very narrowed and focused, and because of that you just have a different story, and it's just good. It's your classic save the princess, but done in a beautiful way so far, and I cannot wait to see where the series goes. Only has a few episodes left, and I am loving every second of it. So this is Alert Wolf telling you, click it up if you like it, comment if you must, subscribe if you can, subscribe if you thought this was a good episode too, man. And watch Sword Art Online. All right, this is Alert Wolf signing out.